Again. Live from Pawtucket, it's a mad show. Welcome to the program, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Stephen Buckner, joined by my lovely co-host, PJ Pat Tierney. And we are here tonight to talk about our fall holiday movie season, which prior to Thanksgiving actually sort of kicked off. So we're going to talk about two of the bigger holiday releases.
Because I actually saw two movies this week.
Actually saw two movies. So that his average of one, sometimes it's zero, sometimes it's one, but two. So this is going to bring up his average to one instead of like half of a movie.
Yeah.
But a little later on, we're going to talk about the new Knives Out movie, which is called Wake Up Dead Man. And I don't think they even include Knives Out in the title.
No, it just said Wake Up Dead Man.
Yeah, it just said Wake Up, because I know the director-producer doesn't like the movies being called.
Right, because Knives Out is its own story.
Right, he wanted them to be called a Benoit Blanc mystery. Sort of like, you have Hercule Poirot movie. But the studio Netflix insists on them being called a Knives Out mystery to capitalize on the popularity of Knives Out. But the actual name of it is Wake Up Dead Man. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But first, we're going to talk about the thing that has been omnipresent in all of pop culture for at least a month before it came out, is Wicked for Good, which is part 2 of last year's Wicked.
Part 2, Act 2, however you want to.
Yeah, so this has been heavily anticipated by a lot of people. It was expected to do big business, which it did in its opening weekend. I think it made like $150 million or something like that. So it did really well, despite getting some negative reviews, and there is some like negative online chatter about it. But I think the people who love Wicked love the sequel. So it does sort of have its niche audience, and it does sort of have a built-in theater musical loving audience. But I don't know how it's doing overall with the more casual fans. But the thing that most people who are criticizing it, what they're criticizing about it, is that the second one is a weaker story and it's a tonal shift.
But that's not really a fair criticism, because it's never was intended to be a standalone movie.
Right, it's very much
the second half of one movie.
Yeah, it's very much part 2. And I know that originally it was supposed to be titled Part 2, and I think that title probably got dropped for marketing reasons, more to do than actual, the movie standing
Probably
for its own
bad
reasons.
taste in people's mouths from Deathly Hallows Part 2 and Breaking Dawn Part 2.
Well, I don't think those movies affected people, but I think maybe some people, I think they're thinking some people won't go see a movie called Part 2 or a movie called Part 1, because then they'll have to go see a Part 2. And they don't want to go see a movie Part 2 if they haven't seen Part 1. But why would you go see this movie if you haven't seen Part 1? But really, this is one Broadway show that they've split into 2 movies. So like you said, they sort of make up one large movie, oversized movie. And they're like I was saying before the show, they're 2 halves of a coin. The Wicked show, the Broadway show, the second act, which is what this movie is based on, is the weaker of the 2 acts. I will give you that.
But it does better when you've just finished and you've just seen Defying Gravity and you have only a 20-minute break before the story continues. It benefits from that.
Yes, and seeing it in one viewing. And I think I benefited the way I watched it, because I went to go see both movies back to back in the theater. They showed them as a double feature with an intermission like you would have at a theater if you were seeing the Broadway show. So I think I liked it more than maybe the average moviegoer because I didn't have that distance between viewings. I saw the first one, which I think I liked even more the second time around because I wasn't comparing it with my expectations from the Broadway show. And I think I relaxed and I enjoyed it more. And then going in, the second act was, or second movie, was really what I expected it to be. Because I know that there is a tonal shift going from the first act of the show to the second act. And honestly, the songs in the second act are not as good as the song. They're not bad. They're just, some of the songs are not as memorable, and they're not the songs that have sort of become big numbers on their own. There's always breakout hits.
My two favorite songs are from the first act, Popular and Defying Gravity are my two favorite songs.
Yeah, I think Defying Gravity is most people's favorite song from the show, and it's the song that sort of defines the show. So they had to include that in the first movie, even though it's a perfect ending for the first movie, that song. I'm like you, I like Popular, that's my favorite song from the show. I also like Loathing, which was from the show. But this movie does have a lot of reprisals of those songs, and I honestly can't remember how many of them. I know there are reprises in the actual show, but it almost seemed like there were more reprises than I remembered. And I think it's because they wanted to include some of that music that people really love from the first one in this one to sort of tie them together, but also to keep people interested. And I even noticed them using it in the score. In one scene, I seem to remember hearing the music from, I think it was from Popular, that they had an instrumental version going on in the background. So, but the new songs are pretty, well, not new songs, but the songs in this new movie are good, especially the song that they take the subtitle from, For Good. That's probably, honestly, even though it's not my favorite song, it's probably the second best song next to Defying Gravity that's in the show. It's a fantastic song, and that's a good way to end the show, or end the series, both movies. And they do add two brand new songs that were not in the show, one for Elphaba to sing, one for Glinda to sing. And those were both pretty good. They didn't particularly wow me, but they weren't bad. They were pretty good. And they fit in with the storyline because sometimes they'll shoehorn new songs into these shows so that they have a new song for Oscar consideration. And these sort of felt organic to it because, honestly, it is a second act. There's not completely enough material there to fill an entire movie on its own. Usually with these musicals, when they get made into movies, they sort of compact them into 1 2-hour movie, and sometimes some of the lesser songs get cut out to make it a normal running time. And with this, they wanted to leave everything in, so they needed to build upon.
And if you want to take half of a story and turn it into a 3-act structure, you really need Peter, Fran, and Philippa to write the screenplay.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Well, that didn't always work with The Hobbit.
No, it did not.
But one thing I found with this, which I don't know if it was really that way in the Broadway show, is that this movie, Wicked for Good, seems to be Glinda's movie. The first one, although both of them are prominent in it, looking in retrospect, it's Elphaba's movie. It's her arc from being the outcast who sort of eventually becomes accepted and then just ends up refusing that acceptance because she sees the costs that it was going to come, and she sort of rejects that. And this is all about Glinda, who has always wanted, has always been accepted, but has sort of wanted more than
Yeah.
then, she's had everything so easy, but the one thing that she really wants, she doesn't have. And it's sort of her arc in sort of realizing that her just going along to get along isn't really the way. And she sort of had her eyes opened by Elphaba. So it's an interesting arc for her, and she has a song that later in the film that sort of is about that. And there are also, I don't know if it's more than what's in the show, but it feels like it's trying to tie in more with The Wizard of Oz.
It definitely did. I mean, I liked that, and people are going crazy about this, but it's only because they haven't read the book. Yes, she's supposed to have silver shoes.
Yes. I mean, that's the way the original, not even the Wicked book. That's the way the original Wizard of Oz.
MGM wanted the ruby slippers because in 1939, that red slippers on the yellow brick road just highlighted that Technicolor breakthrough.
Yeah.
For the color sequence.
Has there been a movie since the MGM movie that has had the ruby slippers? Because they kind of own that. And they can't really do that. They own
that. Ruby slippers, well, Dorothy wasn't in Oz the Great and Powerful, but I don't think the ruby slippers were in Return to Oz. But I don't remember.
Well, I do remember that the Gnome King had them, but I can't remember if they were ruby or if they were silver. And the Wicked Witch of the East would have been wearing them in Oz the Great and Powerful.
Yeah.
So I can't really remember if they've been included. I feel like they were, but I don't. But I know that when they made Oz the Great and Powerful, they had to make sure that the green on the Wicked
was
Witch
a specific shade of green and not a specific shade of green.
Yeah, because apparently if it was too similar to the Wicked Witch in the original Wizard of Oz movie, that would be a legal problem for them with MGM.
And the ultimate irony is, because Disney's wanted to own Wizard of Oz since forever, but the ultimate irony is that the court fight which allows them to keep control of Mickey Mouse is the same law that allows MGM to keep control, that prevents them from getting complete control over Wizard of Oz. Because Wizard of Oz the rights to that one is owned by MGM, but all the other books are all free range.
Yeah.
And out of copyright, which is why Disney made Return to Oz in 89.
Which I kind of want. I think it was earlier than 89 because I feel like I was young when I was watching that, and that was kind of
86 maybe, 85,
85, mid 80s.
Because Francis Ford Coppola and George Lucas helped jump in when the director got sick.
Oh, see, I didn't know that. I kind of want to rewatch it because they just added that, I think, to Disney Plus.
That's one of those scary Disney movies from the 80s.
It is, yeah. There was we could do a whole show about the scary movies that Disney did. But I'm finding it funny how people that maybe they're just not familiar with the Broadway show or the novel of Wicked, they're getting upset about how things don't tie in with the Wizard of Oz.
The Wizard of Oz movie is it's like from an unreliable narrator. If you take this as canon.
But still, it's not an actual prequel. It's not like this is Phantom Menace and A New Hope, where they are in the same universe and they've got to interconnect at some point.
Yeah.
These are two completely separate movies. They're telling the same story. And this is sold as a prequel to the story of The Wizard of Oz, but not necessarily MGM's 1939 Wizard of Oz. There was a Wizard of Oz prior to that.
Yeah.
And there have been many iterations of it over the years. Even prior to that, there were multiple silent film versions, stage versions. So, this is a prequel to the story of The Wizard of Oz. But it's not necessarily a prequel that is going to meld or mesh completely with the MGM movie that most people are familiar with. And the people online that are just nitpicking over how it doesn't mesh up, or
like the Tin Man, how he's going psycho in the Witch Hunter song.
Yeah.
And then like 5 minutes later in Wizard of Oz, he would be like, if I only had a heart.
Right. And the Tin Man is, I'll be honest, it's one of the only parts of the movie, and I know it's being faithful to its source material of the show and the book, but I felt like, and I understand for the character of Bach, and I don't want to spoil, I just spoiled things by saying his name, but I understand why the Tin Man
would feel how he
such
does.
rage
Yeah.
and would be angry, but still the part of me that remembers the musical, it's like that doesn't feel like the character. Like, I get the Cowardly Lion being cowardly, but the Tin Man was supposed to be a very loving character, even though he didn't have a heart.
Yeah.
When they all get to see the wizard at the end of the MGM movie, they obviously had the qualities that they were looking for all the time. The Scarecrow was obviously the brains of the outfit. The Tin Man, he would start crying at the drop of a hat because he felt too much. He was empathetic, and he did love people even though he didn't have a heart. And the Cowardly Lion was brave at times.
Yeah.
He helped them go into the witch's castle.
Bravery is being scared and acting anyway.
Yes, exactly. And so for the Tin Man to just be so angry and sort of
psychotic.
Yes, but feeding into a mob frenzy, it just almost felt like a betrayal of the character to me. And I know it's that way so I can't fault them for doing that. And it works in the context of this movie. But it's one of the things where I just I felt like, oh, I wish that was different. I get why it's that way because it works with that character's story, but
I was trying to figure out, and I'm being very vague to try not to spoil anything. I'm dancing around it. If they wanted to make the sequel, Son of a Witch, how they would get that to work because of how it ended.
Yeah, I have a feeling, and I never read Son of a Witch because after reading the first book in the series, I had no desire to. I was curious about the sequels, but not curious enough to read them because it was just such a, by comparison to the show, the Broadway show, it's such a dark story and a cynical story, and I just didn't feel like visiting that world again. But I have a feeling, because they said that they want to continue, because they see a money cash machine when they know one. And I have a feeling that the reason, and I saw someone point this out, the reason that they cast Coleman Domingo as the Cowardly Lion, because the Cowardly Lion was such a small part in this. You didn't need a really good actor playing that part. Is because I think they probably want to make A Lion Among Men, which is
the third one.
It's either the second sequel or the third sequel. They made multiple books.
There were 5, I think.
Yeah, I think there were 5, and then they came out with another prequel, and they just announced another prequel that they're going to make. So I think that's what they're going to do, is they're going to make that. I don't know if that works without making Son of a Witch first, because I haven't read them, so I don't know how much those stories depend on each other. But that's sort of my suspicion, because the character who's the main character in Son of a Witch, there really would be no explanation in this movie as to how he exists.
Yes.
So, I mean, they could come up with something, work around it, because it's not going to be a literal
thing. And there was a time jump, so they could say, oh, within that time jump, there was blah, 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 blah.
All right, so moving on before we run out of time, Wake Up Dead Man, which is the new sequel to Knives Out, starring former James Bond, not Pierce Brosnan, Daniel
Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig, as his new character, Benoit Blanc, who is, like you were saying before the show started, he's sort of an Agatha Christie
Yes.
type character. He's sort of Ryan
Johnson. And it's definitely in that Agatha Christie Poirot tradition, like down to the style of the end credits with the portraits, which they did in Knives Out. And this doesn't spoil the plot or anything. This is just an aesthetic of the end credits. Just those like portraits. It just screams that 1930s feel.
And he's definitely going for that. He's definitely going for a Agatha Christie type feel, and especially the fact that he's going. Each of these movies has like an all-star cast.
Yes.
And that kind of is reminiscent of all the adaptations they've done of
like Murder on the Orient Express with Albert Finney and everyone who had been in Hollywood up until that point in the 1970s.
Yeah. So he's definitely working that angle, and he's done that with his other mystery project that he's done, the show on Peacock, which actually just got canceled, but my mind just blanked on the name of it.
Yeah. Which was a Christie thing, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't Christie. But that one is inspired by like 1970s TV mystery shows. And I'll think of the name when I'm no longer trying to remember it. But this one, like the two previous movies, Benoit Blanc is just sort of not a peripheral character, but he's not the main character.
Right. He
There's
just
a
happens to be
younger
there.
Character who is sort of directly affected by the central murder and is enlisted by Benoit Blanc to help him solve the mystery. And in this case, the story revolves around a young priest who gets sent to this parish as sort of a small parish as a punishment for a thing that happens at the beginning of the movie. It doesn't really matter. But he gets sent there as a punishment, and he finds that the punishment is really because the Monsignor, who's the father in charge of this small parish, is just extremely difficult to get along with. He's purposely difficult. And their sort of approach to how the church should relate to people and how their approach to what faith is or what the teachings of Jesus are vastly different. The Monsignor, who's played by
Brolin, yes,
is very much a very old school Catholic, where he's all about fire and brimstone and condemning people. You're going to go to hell.
Like the priest at the beginning of Moby Dick.
Yeah. He's telling people, unwed mothers are sinners. You're all going to go to hell, and that type of thing. And he ostracizes people. People.
He calls them out.
Yeah, and so he's sort of, by a result of that, kept his parish limited to just these few small group of hardcore followers of his that buy into his shtick, I guess you'd call it, or his approach, because they're all sort of broken in one way or another.
It's another movie with an all-star cast. You have, Moriarty plays, this author who's, trying to write his next book. You have Glenn Close, the vice president, is in it.
Kerry Washington,
Yeah.
Jeremy Renner, and Lowell, as you called him, from Wings, is in it. So there's this whole cast of characters that you are introduced to by the main character. He sort of goes into each of their stories. So all of them sort of have a reason for possibly committing the murder, or they're all just at least sort of suspicious in one way or another. And the main character, the young priest, he's played by Josh O'Connor, who played Prince Charles, if we're going by what they've played previously. I forgot what I was about to say. He's the prime suspect. The police believe that he did it. The parish definitely believes that he did it, and the town. And he's sort of desperate to prove that he's innocent. And Benoit Blanc shows up, and, even though the evidence sort of seems to be the contrary, he believes that he didn't do it. And, you never know what Benoit Blanc does and doesn't know at one point, because he doesn't show his cards until he has to. And even when he does show some cards, he doesn't show you all his cards. So he sort of, leads him around a little bit, nudging him where he wants him to go to help him, unearth whatever sort of information he needs. But you have a feeling he already knows what he's looking for. He's very much like Dumbledore.
Yes.
In a way where, Dumbledore could have done all of that stuff himself, but he just sort of nudged Harry to do his work for him, or nudged Snape to do his work.
Yeah. Go find a Horcrux.
Yeah. So it's sort of that way with this character. But it's an excellent movie. It's an excellent mystery. A lot of mystery things I watch, it's so apparent from the very beginning what the solution is to it. And even though there's characters that you suspect and you feel that this character is probably guilty, you really don't completely understand or know fully what happened until it's revealed in the movie, or at least I didn't. So I felt sort of pleasantly surprised because, I like watching mysteries to see if I can figure it out. And that's why I don't always like the ones where they show you at the beginning who the murderer is.
The how done it, which they started with Columbo.
Yeah, and the show I was talking about is that way too, but it's still a good show. I like sort of figuring out the mystery of who did it, but how done it as well. And so it's definitely a rewarding mystery to watch. So I recommend that. It's going to be out on Netflix. It's very limited theatrical release, but it will be out, I think, next week on Netflix. So we'll be back in 2 weeks with our annual Christmas show. I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about then. So thank you, everyone, for watching and tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Have a good night. So I don't know whether or not we'll talk about Zootopia on our next one. Right? Zootopia came out, and it was the #1 release, which I found surprising because I thought Wicked would be #1 2 weeks in a row. But Zootopia surprisingly earned more than that.
Yeah, it like broke all. I was reading articles about it today. It like broke all the records.
Yeah, like I looked internationally, like including the international amount and the domestic amount. It's made over $500 million, and that's more than the most popular movies of the year have made all year. So I did not expect that.